Connections build communities, and Rachel Andras is all about connecting good people with good people. Listening to each other's stories and experiences could open up hope for someone else. She believes sharing not only empowers you, but those who listen may feel like they're not on an island alone. Rachel is about inspiring change and seeks to awaken potential in others. Each week, she interviews friends who've chosen to live their life with purpose and meaning. It'll be fun, encouraging, and a wide diversity of beautiful humans. You're invited to be inspired and hopes to spark the light inside of you. We hope you enjoy it. Here's Rachel. So thank you, Dan, for letting me interview you. You are usually, I will say, usually I don't want my bed in the photo or in the video because I don't want my bed in the video, but look at what I have right here. I think we have a Dan Elster photography in every room in the house, not the bathroom, but everywhere. All the kids have them in their rooms. You're the centerpiece in our living room. We love your work. And so, and this one here is really special because it's one of the giclées. Is that what you call it on the canvas? What do you call it?
A giclée or canvas print, yeah.
Yeah, I love those. Are you still doing those?
Yeah, I still do canvas prints. I do metal prints. I do pretty much all sorts of prints. They print on such a wide variety of mediums now. Yeah,
that's so cool. That's so
canvas is cool for sure.
Well, I love your work. I love you as a human. I love that we were friends before kids, right? Like that to me is kind of a fun. Just because our kids are older now, so we've been raising our kids together. We have evolved as parents. Hopefully I'm still evolving because I got a ways to go, but
don't we all?
But I love what you do. I love it because you do it with such passion and meaning. And I think one of the things that, and I know you've heard me say this before, but you do an amazing job at not only capturing a photo, but truly telling a story. And if you're lucky to meet Dan, he's going to tell you the story about the print that you buy or the card that you buy or whatever, because it's so fascinating. So tell us a little story about Dan Elster first. Where you grew up, what got you into wildlife photography?
Well, I grew up in Chicago and also suburban Chicago, the Chicagoland area, I guess I should say. As a kid, I always loved watching wildlife shows on TV. I read every book there was to read. I always tell people I used to sleep with my dinosaur books. At some point, I moved on to snakes, and I would bring a snake home once in a while. I've just always been completely fascinated with animals. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know how it all started, but I lived in a city, so I didn't see a whole lot of wildlife. And then in my late 20s, I moved out of Chicago to this far suburb called Island Lake. And it was this small little lake, and I had a little boat with a trolling motor, and there was forest preserves all over the place. And that was when I really first started seeing actual wild animals, even simple stuff like deer and red-tailed hawks. Remember the first time I saw a great horned owl. I mean, so kind of basic wildlife I still love to this day, but it kind of set off this thing in me. Wildlife is something that's not only on TV, in books, and at the zoo. Wildlife is a real thing out in the world. And so I lived with that for a year or two. And then my then girlfriend, now wife, Patty, moved in with me, and she came up with the idea of buying me a camera, a real camera with a big fancy lens and whatever. So she buys me this camera with the idea of I'm going to go out and photograph wildlife. Yeah. And the camera sat in the box for probably 6 months because it looked so fancy and intimidating. It just sat there, and finally one day she threw me out of the house with this camera, and off I went into the woods. And I mean, I look back now, like what a transformative day in my life. I think
Yeah.
it was that day. The photos probably all sucked and whatever, but it was the beginning of something. And then I remember getting a couple decent photographs, and that just got me thinking of the possibilities. And then I won a couple local contests and stuff like that. And it all just snowballed from there. Yeah, things were never the same.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. And what were the subjects? What were the animals that of those first few photos that you were really taking?
One moment I'll always remember is that we had this state park near us called Moraine Hills State Park. And now that I live in Oregon and I'm surrounded by national forests, Moraine Hills seems like just a little dot on the map. But for me, coming from Chicago, it seemed like this expansive wilderness. And I remember I got there one morning, it was, gosh, just as the sun was coming up, and I see this deer crossing this misty field. And like there's all this like fog and mist lifting up, and it's just a doe like slowly meandering across this field, and like it was creating this beautiful silhouette.
Mm,
And then behind me was this buck, like a younger buck, whatever, but he was much closer, maybe in some respects, maybe like the more impressive subject. I remember I had a choice. Am I going to photograph this beautiful scene in one direction or this not so beautiful scene in the other direction?
mm,
And I ended up pursuing this doe in the field. And I think that set off the artistic elements of photography, which further drew me in.
yeah,
Just the entire idea of wildlife photography, and wildlife photography is art.
yeah,
And this is what I want to do.
yeah. That's so cool. What were you doing at the time? What were you?
I was
I mean, yeah.
work-wise.
Mhm.
I was working for Elster Foods, which was a company owned by my brother. I kind of managed the company. I look back at Elster Foods. It was financially, it was a huge success, but I by the end, I hated it. It was just not what I was supposed to be doing. I was starting work at 2 in the morning. I was lucky to get home by 4 in the afternoon. I was
Mhm.
in a rough neighborhood, a lot of crime,
Yeah. What
a
a
lot of people.
I mean, what a total, night and day switch of what you were doing to what you do now, and even, evolving into that, right? Like it hasn't been like all of a sudden you're like, okay, bye, I'm gonna just start living my dream over here. Like it doesn't, you've transitioned through. I mean, I know we met through the nature shop when you were in Ashland. I know you've lived in Florida, you've lived in Oregon before, you moved around and traveled a lot, but yeah, you worked at the nature shop, which is just a cool spot. And what a great place to land. And we feel the same way when we
Mhm.
first moved here. I mean, we got to meet you guys who are our people, and and like we're other people in our lives. Those are like, like the
Yeah.
foundation. It's
Well,
awesome.
and we had so much in common. Like you guys were pursuing this new cool thing of being fly fishing guides. I was pursuing wildlife photography. Like we kind of moved to Oregon to follow our passion, which is
Yeah. Well,
so
I
cool to
think we
have.
all moved to Oregon because we wanted to be intentional with our life. We didn't want to just keep going. We wanted to make a meaningful life. And I know for your, I mean, if anyone hasn't checked out your website, you need to. You're always updating it. You've got great newsletters. You do all these things. So everybody go check him out at elsterphotography.com. But and when I say that, I hope 5 people watch this. I mean, I mean, that's all I mean, that's about it. If we can help someone see, maybe you ignite some sort of fire in somebody else to get brave enough to kick themselves out of the house to go into the wilderness or go do those things that make them feel alive. That's all I like. That's the reason why I'm, you know,
Is that
doing
why
this
you're?
and
Is that
interviewing.
how you're starting this, and why you're starting this? These
That's
interviews?
a big part of it. I think it's important. I think it's so easy for people to go, oh, it's so easy for them, right? Like, oh, Dan, you got the life, right? Has it always been that way? Has it always been so like, I'm just gonna go hang out and like take pictures for a week, right? Like, I mean, I just feel like when we tell our stories that we can connect better as humans. And when we do, we can allow everyone else to just be normal and struggle and thrive and celebrate each other and just start to keep pushing each other to growth. I mean, I know one of the things I love connecting with you about our businesses and how we do things, but um, I have to say I've been very lucky. Um, I mean, we've known each other a long time, but something special happened this year that was magic. And I think this is what you talked about. I know in your on your website you talk about how like seeing wildlife in their habitat really moved you, and that there is truly a spirit within these animals. And the bear and the turkey. Like, let me tell you, I am changed forever. And I felt like I was so lucky to have been there. And and you do this stuff all the time, but you were so alive and so excited to share it with Lori and I. Like it was so cool and exciting. So will you tell a little bit about that?
I mean, you could probably tell the story as well as I. I mean, from my vantage point, I was already planning on going over there that day anyhow. And I had asked Dan and Lori to please summon a bear for me because I had not seen a bear on their property all summer, and it had become such a bear hotspot that I was getting a little bummed. And it was like kind of this off, just off the hook comment I left them. And wasn't it maybe just a few minutes later, you're texting me saying there's a bear? And did you say the bear had a turkey? You said the bear had something, but you were watching a bear. I can't remember
what
you
it
told me.
was. Yeah, I didn't know what it had, but the funny thing is, I'm sure I'm not the only person who sends you a text and says, "Hey, I saw a bluebird. Oh, I saw a bear. I saw." I mean, I'm sure you just get those texts all the time. It's like we get pictures of people holding fish and telling them where they're like, I love that. I love that people
Sure.
are excited for what you're going to be excited about. So I love, doing that. But yeah, we were texting, and then you were texting, Lori too. And, it was all exciting. And then we went for a walk. We just saw the bear. We kept walking and you were coming in. And we weren't even sure if we were going to see you, but you were like, oh man, this bear is here. And so we kind of walked up and around, and we saw all these turkey feathers everywhere. And yeah, I can't even, I'll have to go back. I should look at our texts because I keep them. But the whole, I mean, what's so funny is like, I know one of the first times I got to fish with you, or we took you to the Klamath River, and you brought your camera, and Jim and I were, floating down the river, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at the great blue herons up there. I'm gonna get my camera out. I remember you like leaning down, like it's a two-handed camera, and you lean down and you're like, and you've got this lens that's amazing. Most of us have our little phones and we're like beep beep, and so you had like your perfect setup, you had the great vantage point. Tell me, like, we could hear that bear crunching.
That was such a cool, unique situation, especially because that little ravine separating us, which allowed like a very close vantage point for all three of us.
Yeah.
And I think that bear felt very secure and safe for the same reason. But yeah, I had been watching that bear. I think you and Lori were off walking. I've been watching that bear trying to figure out what it was doing or what it was eating. Like it was very intently doing something, and then it just picked up turkey, and all of a sudden, like I'm like, oh my god, I had never seen a black bear's carnivorous side. I've seen them forage for berries, this, that, and that. That's what most people see. So to see this bear, and like he picked it up, or she picked it up and moved it to an even better spot where there's much better viewing of it all. And I think that's probably around the time you guys showed back up. Was on this kind of like resting against this log and just, yeah, you could hear the bones crunching. It was like the happiest bear too. That's what else I remember. It was like giving your dog like a big, huge bone,
Yeah.
and just watching it go to town. It was quite a moment. And then typically I don't have. Typically I'm alone, and most of the time that's how I like it. I part of the beauty of wildlife photography is the solitude of it all. But it was super cool to have you and Lori and myself. Like that made the moment even cooler and a little more memorable. Is
Well,
to
thank
experience
you.
such a unique thing with you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for
Oh well,
sharing it with us, because it's
well you, you
that's
shared with me first. You texted me, and Lori shares her property, so there's I didn't do
we
anything.
all in it together. I love it. It was very special. It was like we got to be a part of who you are and what you're doing when you are out there taking all these amazing images all over. Like, I mean, it is, I know that feeling of being on the river and waking up with the river, and having that one-on-one, like those moments where you are
Hmm.
just, it's an intimate sort of situation. Like you see animals, you see light, you see weather, you're in it, and it is, and if we're smart enough, we do it more often, and we pay attention, and we're like, like we notice all those things, not just the prize, but the whole part of it, like
Absolutely.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think
Well,
there is some crossover with fishing and what you do for sure. Just being in nature, I think that's the common bond in that for sure.
no question. You're making me want to go fishing with you and Jim again, because it's been a while. But it's just, it's always a pleasure to get on the Rogue River with you two, and
Yeah.
you guys get
We
it.
saw a golden eagle 2 days ago.
Did you really? Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, I know. They're cool. Well, when we're not catching fish, we really love pointing out all the wildlife. That's our way of saying, okay, it's still a great day, even if we didn't catch any fish. Yeah. Well, I
Absolutely.
saw a bald eagle, that counts.
Yeah,
Um,
I do the same thing in my head. Even if I don't get a good photograph or anything, it's still just great being out there.
yeah, yeah. I know you've been, I mean, part of my favorite part of parenting is definitely dragging my kids to the river with us. But you have, I mean, I know Forrest has been interested in photography some in the past. I don't know where he is now with it, but how is it? I've seen you take the kids with you a couple times. How's that been for you?
Um, yeah, I haven't had the same level of success inspiring my kids as you and Jim to go fishing. My kids mostly joke around that I'm a nerd. I'm a bird nerd. If I can't produce a wildlife subject very quickly, and even when I do, it's a short-lived excitement. I don't know.
That's the same
They
with
may start.
fishing. I mean, that fishing is like that, but I have to tell you, it's not just with kids, it's with adults too. Like if there's not any sort of immediate sort of activity, people start losing interest. So it's
Right.
true. Yeah.
But that's okay. They're both at ages when it's all about sports, friends, video games.
Yeah.
The bane of my existence is
Yeah.
sports.
I know. Mine
We
too.
won't get into that now. Um, we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like I know I've inspired a lot of other kids, and
Yes.
I love doing that too.
Yeah.
So even if my kids don't take up wildlife photography, it's cool to plant that seed in other kids for sure.
Agreed. And you are playing, they're watching you. Like this is what all the parenting articles and things that everyone tells us, right? They're watching you live out your passion, no matter what it is. You're showing them that it's possible. And so just keep doing that because they're
Right
watching.
back at you. That's an important lesson. Like you don't have to do what you're supposed to do in life. You could, yeah, make your own path.
So
So
I mean, you show them every day, and you show them how hard you work. You show them, that it takes a lot of time, and that it's not all. I mean, sometimes it is stuff in envelopes, right? Like, I mean, that's how it goes.
absolutely.
But that's part of it. Um, I know. Oh, you mentioned because you have inspired a lot of other kids. Tell me, you've done some mentorship and some classes, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done like some small group class stuff.
Great.
I did one like long-term mentorship, which ended up being just a beautiful thing, even though like I really didn't want to do it. So with an eighth grade girl, and this is like I could probably relate to an eighth grade girl better now because I have a daughter who's in eighth grade.
Right, right.
But going back a few years, like talk about two people who have nothing in common was this girl and myself, but she had this interest in wildlife photography.
Oh,
And her mom and Patty are friends because they're both nurses. So it's just a very memorable day. Like we had to do a certain amount of hours and we were running out of time. And like, so we went for a whole day in the field. And like the first hour is just awkward silence, this,
yeah.
that, and that. And then like, it just seemed like these wild animals were just coming out of the woodwork for us.
Wow.
And I blew her mind. I blew my own mind that day. Like we just had close encounter after close encounter with like amazing stuff, like this red-shouldered hawk carrying around a rabbit, and just it was just fun. We found a barn owl, and long story short, now this girl and I are friends to this day. She's out of college. She's a photographer. Like just a great thing. I'm so glad I did it. And you know, sometimes we all have to do things that get us out of our comfort zone. And sometimes I think they're because you're getting out of your comfort zone, that's exactly what you should be doing. And you know, I learned a lesson that day. Like, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally do. That's half of this too, is I've had these ideas and now it's finally like, now I'm getting brave and asking my friends to join me. And you're the same. I
Sure.
mean, like the same thing. We don't grow, we don't learn, we don't, you know, make things happen unless we get uncomfortable. And yeah, it's clunky and it's awkward and it's painful and it's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's all the feels. And but at the same time, when you're done or when you're in it, if we first, it'd be great if we notice it when we're in it, because that doesn't always happen. It's usually after we've been holding our breath forever or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
is it over yet? Is it over yet? And then you're like, oh, that felt so good, you know. But it's really, yeah, that's everything. Like, and again, I mean, I don't think any kids are going to be watching this, but you never know. But you do grow. I mean, we all have this to learn. We only grow when we push ourselves into a different zone. And so yeah, it's not, we don't know what we're capable of until we try it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. And
Yeah.
you know that in both your businesses too.
Yeah.
With your health coaching, with your fly fishing, with your fly fishing camps for kids, like all those things aren't easy to do. And you just got to put yourself out there and just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I just hope everybody realizes with your story and how it's continuing to evolve. I mean, well, I don't want to miss out and not share that you published a book, which was a huge project for you, a huge
mhm.
success. And it wasn't like, oh, here's the book and then here it's done. Like it was like, I mean, that's how everything is. Everything worth it is clunky and not smooth. And, but
For
in the
sure.
end, aren't you so proud of that awesome book?
Absolutely. The book's probably one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah, but it wasn't easy for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But no question about it. Yeah, it's one of the best career moves I made. Financially, it's been a great thing for me. I'm very proud of it. I love the way it came out.
I mean, and
Yeah.
just that journey of how making those choices, picking the cover, writing the text, like, and you're so good. Like, yes, you're an amazing photographer. We all, like, the world knows that. But even your captions, or when you do post or share a little bit about that day, it's so good. Like, you're a writer because you're just you, and you have a really easy easy way, I guess that's the best, approachable way. Like you're just easy to be around because you're just you and you help other people feel like they can just be themselves too. And that's but you have a way in your stories to share a true story. And that's, I think that's magic, because, anyone can take a picture of bird, but not the story. They don't tell the story that you tell.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to do more of that. I'm trying to become more of a writer. I'm trying to, I hope that becomes a bigger part of what I do. The book was certainly a nice outlet. Social media is a nice outlet. I can really write whatever I want. And over
Great
time, like, I've
platform.
worried less and less about what people think about what I write. And I just
Good.
say what I want to say. I don't have to sound like anyone else. I could just be me.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a nice platform to be able to just share that, because that's, you can't ever say the wrong thing to the right people. I've learned that, right? Like it is, that's important, I think, to recognize. So yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, I've started to realize that, there's a lot of controversial issues around wildlife and conservation, this, that, and that. And I always worried about offending someone. Like, don't say too much about wild mustangs, or don't say too much about coyotes, because you might offend someone who loves coyote hunting, and the only good coyote is a dead coyote, but they might buy something from it. But over time, I'm like, they're not going to buy anything from me anyhow. And I'm trying to step out a little bit more and use my voice a little more. I'm not going to stand on my soapbox and, become I don't know,
right, spokesman,
a preacher,
or something. Yeah.
But I'm getting bolder about talking about things that are important to me, and wildlife conservation, and the way wildlife is treated in this country, and so I'm hoping that becomes a bigger part of what I do too, for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, before we go, I hope I have enough time. I want to hear what you're excited about. What are you working on? What do you want to be working on? What's your dream, trip? What's your, tell me something you're excited about.
Right now, I'm excited about camera trapping. I'm getting very into setting remote camera traps, with both kind of low-end hunting game trail cameras, and also some very high-end equipment to hopefully get big, beautiful, bold images of animals at night and stuff like that.
Cool.
That's another example of kind of getting out of my comfort zone. I don't know, sometimes I don't feel like learning new things, and I'm not big on technology, and learning about these camera systems,
I bet
has forced me to get more technical and learn new things. And but it's just time to find a new creative outlet for what I do. I'll never stop having a camera in my hand, but that's what I'm very excited about right now. I'm hoping to start photographing more cougars and things like that, like more elusive wildlife that has so far eluded me.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. That's exciting. Well, thank you I feel like I could talk to you forever, and I miss talking with you. So we'll get together soon, but
Sure.
thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you doing this with me and sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do. You're following your dream, and you're making it happen, and you're raising your family and supporting your family, and you're growing as a human every day. And I love you and your family so much. And thank you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Rachel. All those nice things right back at you and your family.
Great. So, well, thanks, love.
All right. Take care.
We'll talk soon. Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, you can find her on social media at Flyfishing, 4 Health, and at Andras Outfitters. We'll see you next time.